What happens when a beloved Hollywood icon sits down for what should be a warm, friendly chat about his new movie, only to be blindsided by a host who seems hell-bent on sparking controversy instead of conducting an interview? It took just 34 seconds for Pierce Brosnan to realize that Denise Welch had no intention of treating him with basic respect. What followed was a clash that exposed the true nature of daytime, television's most unpredictable personality. Pierce Brosnan walked onto the Loose Women set that morning, expecting the usual routine. Promote the film, share a few behind-the-scenes stories, maybe mention his family. It was supposed to be easy, light, professional. The kind of interview he had done hundreds of times before. But Denise had other plans. From the moment Pierce sat down, something felt off. The other panelists were unusually quiet, almost tense. Denise sat across from him, eyes sharp and unblinking. And the second the cameras rolled, she attacked. "So, Pierce," she began, her voice carrying that familiar bite long-time viewers knew too well. "Let's talk about your film. Although I'm actually more interested in some of the things you've been saying lately." Pierce raised an eyebrow, charm intact despite the jab. "Well, I'm very happy to talk about the film, Denise. It's an Yes, I'm sure it is," she cut in, leaning forward. "But what I really want to discuss are your comments about certain members of the royal family. Specifically, Meghan Markle." The studio fell silent. Even the camera crew froze at the sudden shift. Pierce remained composed, though a trained eye might have caught the slight tightening around his jaw. "I think there's been some confusion," he replied calmly. "I haven't made any public statements about the Duchess of Sussex. I tend to keep my thoughts on the royal family private." Denise smiled, a cold, knowing smile. "Oh, come now, Pierce. Don't play coy. We've done our research. You've been quite vocal about people who marry into families and then air their dirty laundry in public, haven't you?" The panelists exchanged uneasy glances. Pierce's publicist, just off camera, shifted in her seat. Pierce tried again, patient but firmer now. "Denise, you must have me confused with someone else. I've never commented on their personal affairs." But Pierce's restraint only seemed to fuel her. "Really?" she pressed, voice rising. "Because I've heard you've been quite critical behind closed doors. Words like attention-seeking and manipulative were used. Ring a bell?" Pierce slowly set down his water glass and met her stare. "I'm going to stop you right there. Wherever you're getting this information, it's false. I've never made those comments, especially about someone I've never met." "But you do have opinions, don't you?" Denise continued, relentless. "About people who attack institutions. About victims who play the media while living in luxury." The tension in the studio was now unmistakable. Audience members who came for light entertainment sat frozen in disbelief. Pierce leaned back, his expression now steel. "I came here to talk about my work, not gossip. So perhaps we should focus on why I'm actually here." "Oh, but this is so much more interesting, isn't it?" Denise replied, voice dripping with mock sweetness. "Viewers want honesty, not polished PR lines." "What they're getting," Pierce answered, tone even but edged with warning, "is a host more interested in manufacturing drama than conducting a professional interview." The words hit like a slap. Denise's eyes flashed, but instead of backing off, she escalated. "Drama? No, Pierce. This is called journalism. This is called asking hard questions that matter." "No," Pierce replied, his voice suddenly firmer, cutting through the tension like steel. "This is not journalism. This is harassment, and I will not sit here and be a part of it." The words struck the studio like a lightning bolt. Pierce Brosnan had just called out Denise Welch on live television. Instantly, the atmosphere shifted from uncomfortable to volatile. Denise's face flushed crimson, her eyes narrowing to slits. "Harassment?" she hissed. "How dare you sit on my set and accuse me of harassment? when all I'm doing is my job. Pierce didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't move. Your job, he said evenly, is to interview guests about their work, not invent stories, then attack them when they refuse to validate your fiction. I don't invent stories, Denise shot back, her voice rising. I do my research. I ask the questions that need to be asked. Research? Pierce echoed, raising an eyebrow. Is that what we're calling gossip now? Repeating rumors and trying to force me to comment on people I've never spoken about. Because where I come from, we have a very different word for that. The panel sat frozen, torn between horror and fascination. The studio audience didn't utter so much as a breath. Even the camera operators hesitated, unsure whether to cut or keep filming the carnage. Denise leaned forward, eyes blazing. You know what I think, Pierce? I think you did say these things. And now you're getting defensive because you don't want to face the consequences. Pierce let out a short, humorless laugh. Consequences? The only consequence I'm facing is the realization that I'm wasting my time on a show that doesn't understand the meaning of a professional interview. Professional? Denise's voice cracked, a mix of rage and wounded ego. You want to talk professionalism? I'll tell you what's not professional. Coming on a show and acting like you're above answering honest questions. Pierce shook his head slowly. Honest questions? Denise, you haven't asked me a single honest question since I sat down. You've made accusations, twisted my words, and invented a narrative that has nothing to do with reality. Denise's hands trembled, whether from fury or adrenaline. No one could tell. Don't lecture me about reality, she snapped. I've been doing this job longer than you've been making movies. Pierce didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His restraint was more dangerous than any shout. Then perhaps, he said quietly, you should ask yourself whether you've been doing it right. A loud collective gasp rippled through the audience. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." And the microphones caught it. Denise looked genuinely stunned, as if she'd been struck. How dare you? She whispered, trembling. How dare you walk onto my show and insult me in front of my audience? I'm not insulting you, Pierce replied. I'm stating a fact. This isn't journalism. It isn't entertainment. And it certainly isn't professional. It's a witch hunt, built on claims you can't prove about comments I never made. One of the panelists finally tried to intervene. Maybe we should take a break. No, Denise barked, never looking away from Pierce. We are not taking a break. Not until he explains himself. Explains what exactly? Pierce asked, still composed. That I didn't say things I never said? That I don't hold opinions I don't have? You're demanding I prove a negative. And it's absurd. What I want, Denise said through clenched teeth, is for you to stop treating our viewers like they're stupid. Stop pretending you don't have thoughts about people who air their family drama on national television. Pierce paused. A long, cold, deliberate silence. Then he answered, You want to know what I think about people who air their family's business on TV? Fine. I think it takes a very particular kind of person to make their living dissecting the private lives of others. Someone who's forgotten the line between public interest and public exploitation. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Denise's mouth fell open. Her face turned pale, then red, then pale again. So you're saying, she whispered, that I don't know the difference between journalism and gossip. I'm saying, Pierce replied, that whatever this is, it isn't journalism. It's a desperate attempt to manufacture a moment for your show at my expense. My expense? She screeched. You're a millionaire movie star. And you think you're too good to answer questions? I never said I was too good to answer questions, Pierce replied calmly. I said I won't answer questions built on lies. There's a difference, Pierce said. False premises are not questions. False premises. Denise repeated in a mocking sing-song. Right. Because with you people, everything is a false premise unless it makes you look good. Pierce's expression changed. His eyes hardened. You people? He asked quietly. What exactly do you mean by that, Denise? She blinked, caught off guard. I mean celebrities, Hollywood types, people who think they can control every narrative. Ah. Pierce nodded slowly, the pieces clearly clicking into place for him. So this wasn't about the royal family at all. This was about your resentment. Anyone who won't read from the script you've written in your head becomes the villain. That it? Denise opened her mouth to fire back, but no words came. For the first time since the interview began, she looked rattled. That's not... She tried, then she faltered. You're twisting my words. I'm not twisting anything, Pierce said. I'm following your logic to its finish line. You started this interview with an accusation you couldn't back up. When I denied it, you implied I was lying. When I questioned your approach, you attacked my character. Now you're upset because I won't play the role you assign me. The panel looked like they wanted to sink through their chairs and disappear. The audience was frozen. Even the crew seemed torn between cutting to commercial and letting the disaster burn. Denise finally found her voice, though it wavered. You think you're so clever, don't you? Pierce leaned back, his anger gone, replaced by something heavier. Exhaustion. No, Denise, I don't think I'm clever. I think I'm tired. Tired of being ambushed. Tired of being misquoted. And tired of having my time wasted by someone more interested in creating drama than having a conversation. The words hit like a closing argument, a verdict, a sentence. Denise looked like she might actually explode from the humiliation. Tired? She repeated, incredulous. You're tired? Well, let me tell you what I'm tired of, Pierce. I'm tired of entitled celebrities who think they can dictate the terms of an interview. Pierce didn't flinch. His voice remained maddeningly calm, which only made her fury burn hotter. I'm not dictating anything, he said. I'm simply refusing to participate in whatever this is. If asking for basic professionalism makes me entitled, then fine. I'm guilty. The studio was so silent the air conditioning hum sounded deafening. Denise's fists clenched against the desk. You want professionalism? Let's talk professionalism. How professional is it to come on a show and refuse to engage with the topics we want to discuss? I did come to engage, Pierce replied. I came here to discuss my film. You've spent 10 minutes chasing a topic that only exists in your imagination. If you'd like to ask about my work, I'm right here. Oh, your work, Denise sneered. Right, because that's obviously more important than discussing real issues. Pierce tilted his head. What real issues? The imaginary comments I never made about people I've never mentioned? Those issues? Denise's face flickered. Anger, doubt, panic, all in seconds. The audience could see it. The panel could see it. Worst of all, she could see that they saw it. You're being deliberately obtuse, she snapped. No, Pierce replied gently. I'm being deliberately clear. You built this entire confrontation on something that isn't real, and instead of acknowledging that, you doubled down and attacked me. A panelist finally spoke up. Maybe we should just move on to the film. Don't you dare tell me how to run my interview, Denise snapped, whipping toward her colleague. The co-host recoiled. The audience jolted. Denise realized too late that she had just proved Pierce's point, live, unfiltered, and on camera. Pierce raised an eyebrow. And there it is? There what is? Denise demanded, but the fire had drained from her voice. The real Denise Welch, he said. Not the polished interviewer. The person who lashes out at anyone who won't hand her the moment she wants. Even her own colleagues. Denise opened and closed her mouth like a stunned goldfish. That's not... I didn't... You just yelled at your co-host for suggesting we talk about the topic I'm actually here for, Pierce said. In what universe is that acceptable conduct? The other panelists looked at her now, and none were on her side. The air was suffocating. The interview was going in a certain direction. The interview was going nowhere. Pierce cut in. Final now. Because it started with a lie. And when I refused to validate it, you lost control. It wasn't a lie, Denise snapped, but the line wavered. Thin, weak, unconvincing. And everyone in that studio knew it. Denise said weakly, it wasn't a lie. But even she didn't sound convinced anymore. Pierce leaned forward, voice calm but unyielding. Then prove it. Show me. Show me the interview, the article, the recording. Anything that backs what you've claimed for the last 15 minutes. Denise's eyes darted down. She shuffled her papers, flipping pages with growing panic. Nothing! She looked up again, defeated. The sources were what? Pierce pressed gently. Unreliable gossip? Something you heard from someone who heard it from someone else. Silence, heavy, suffocating. Denise's shoulders sagged. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a breath. The sources weren't direct quotes. Pierce nodded once, slowly. A verdict delivered. So you ambushed me on national television with rumors. You built an entire accusation on hearsay. And when I denied it, you tried to corner me into confessing to something that never happened. I thought... She whispered. You thought what? His voice stayed soft, but steel threaded through every syllable. That you could bully me into a viral moment? That truth didn't matter as long as your show got its clip? For the first time, Denise looked like she might break. The interrogator was gone. In her place sat someone small, exposed, and suddenly aware of it. I was just trying to do my job, she whispered. Pierce's expression softened, not with forgiveness, but with clarity. Your job is to inform and entertain, not to fabricate, not to ambush. There's a difference between accountability and what you did today. The entire studio seemed to exhale. The tension shifted. Less anticipation now, more aftermath. Consequence. Pierce stood, removing his microphone with steady, meticulous movements. I think we're done here. Pierce, wait! One of the panelists blurted. We can still talk about the film. He paused and looked back, eyes full of quiet finality. After this? No, that wouldn't be appropriate. Denise finally raised her head, eyes glassy and red. I'm sorry, she murmured, a ghost of a voice. Pierce studied her, not cruelly, not triumphantly. Just honestly, I believe you, he said at last. But sorry doesn't unring a bell. Sorry doesn't return the 15 minutes I spent defending myself from something that never existed. He turned to leave, then stopped at the edge of the set, one final thought hanging on his tongue. You know the real tragedy, Denise? You have a platform millions watch. You could use it for real conversations, real issues, real impact. Instead, today you used it to try to tear someone down with gossip and spite. And with that, Pierce Brosnan walked off the Loose Women set, leaving behind a broken host, a stunned panel, and a studio full of people who weren't sure whether they'd just witnessed history or a career implode in real time. The cameras continued rolling, capturing Denise Welch in frozen silence, her credibility scattered around her like debris after a storm.